Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Circle here with the coast today. Aaron, go and say hi, Aaron.
Hi, if you like our content, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and let us know what you think.
But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So in this video, we'll be starting a new series on this channel where we'll be grading each NFL team's off-season transactions by division. So in this video, we'll be starting with the NFC West, and then we'll be making our way through the other divisions in the NFL. We'll be kind of listing off the key additions and key departures for each team, and then grading them on a scale from A to F, just like you'd see back in grade school. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll get started with the San Francisco 49ers last year, falling just short of winning a Super Bowl, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime of the big game. That was their second time in the last 4 or 5 seasons where the Niners have fallen just short in the big game. So this offseason they were looking to make some minor tweaks here and there. Didn't feel like they needed to add a whole lot because obviously they were already contenders. Some key departures, though, that the Niners had to suffer through this offseason. Losing guys like Eric Armstead, who signed a 3-year deal with the Jaguars after getting released. Losing also Chase Young, who signed a 1-year deal with the Saints after the Niners let him walk away. And then a few other pieces, really just older veteran guys like Clelin Ferrell and Randy Gregory, guys that have been around the block a time or two. As for the key additions, hoping to, bring some veteran presence back to the front seven after parting with a few guys this offseason. Signing guys like Leonard Floyd, Devondre Campbell, Malik Collins, as well as some other big names like that. And then along with, those big names in free agency, or relatively big names in free agency that the Niners brought in. Throughout the draft, they brought in Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida, Renardo Green, cornerback out of Florida State with their first 2-round picks. And later on down the draft, they also snagged running back out of Louisville, Isaac Gurindo, who some scouts have said has potential at the next level. So Aaron, what are kind of your thoughts on the Niners offseason transactions?
Lost some good players to free agency, which is unfortunate. Not really any big swings for them. Just seems like a lot of depth moves, which can't fault them for because they kept a lot of their key pieces. So as far as free agency, it's just kind of didn't really do a whole lot. But in the draft, I really liked the Pearsall pick, although it took a lot of people by surprise. I think he'll be a good fit for what Shanahan likes to do there. And then the Isaac Gurindo, good physical back. They also picked up Cody Schrader as an undrafted free agent, so getting some depth there at the running back position behind Christian McCaffrey. And I like what they did in the draft. Again, not not super flashy picks, but just kind of picks necessary to maintain what they've already got going on there.
Yeah, I think there were obviously rumors swirling around about Brandon Ayuk possibly being out the door. Ricky Pearsall seemingly was drafted as insurance in case they may not be able to bring him back next season, but it's seeming like they're going to go forward with this trio of Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Ricky Pearsall. Hope that they can maybe get a deal with Ayuk, but if not, they got Pearsall as the insurance, so I think that was a smart move on their part. With that being said, if you want to point to a specific weakness they had last season, I guess it would be the secondary, but again, it was a Super Bowl team, so it's hard to find any fault with their roster. But if we are saying their secondary was the weakest part, they didn't really do a whole lot to address those concerns. With that being said, I do think that they're going to end up being a good enough team to where it's not really going to end up mattering. So I think if I had to grade them, I'd probably give them a B minus because they brought in some good pieces like Ricky Pearsall, Leonard Floyd, um, Isaac Garendo. I think they improved the team enough, but it wasn't anything too crazy, kind of like you said.
I was thinking like a C, C plus,
Yeah.
because they lost some good players, brought in what should be some good players. So I don't know if they really improved. I don't know if they really got worse. They just kind of maintained. So it's kind of that middle of the pack grade for me.
Yeah, I just slightly above that because I like the Pearsall pick, really. Next, we got the Los Angeles Rams, who last year started off the year hampered by injuries, ended up getting it together down the stretch, enough to make the playoffs, and then fell just short, well, a few rounds short, losing to the Detroit Lions in the first round, Matt Stafford's homecoming, where he just could not quite get it done. But this offseason, they were looking to, after getting hit with a bombshell that was, I guess we can start with the departures, starting with that. Aaron Donald, obviously the biggest one. He entering retirement this offseason, took the league a little by surprise. Some other big names or notable names that they lost this offseason: Jonah Williams, D lineman who ended up signing with the Vikings. And then Jordan Fuller, who safety, who ended up signing with the Panthers. So outside of Donald, didn't really lose a whole lot, thankfully. So for a team that were playoff contenders, all they really had to do was build up a team that was already pretty successful. And in doing that, they brought in guys like Tre'Davious White, cornerback, who, speaking of injury concerns, has been plagued by him throughout his career. So if he can stay healthy, I do think he's a great addition to the team. They brought in other defensive backs like Cameron Curl and Darius Williams. But another big notable name on the offensive side of the football, Jonah Jackson, guard from Detroit Lions, hopefully slots into one of those starting guard spots to help shore up the protection around an old Matt Stafford. I think that was a really important free agency signing for them. And then through the draft, drafting guys like Jared Verse, Braden Fisk to hopefully compensate for losing Aaron Donald up in that front seven. Blake Corum in the third round. We saw last year with Kyron Williams how lethal that running game can be, especially if you mix in some play action with Matt Stafford. So I expect Blake Corum to be a good addition to the team as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of an important pickup on free agency wise was Jimmy G. Getting a guy with experience, especially with Matt Stafford, kind of having the injury concerns that he's had throughout his career. Granted, Jimmy G's not much better, but you're not asking him to start every week. You're asking him to come in if Stafford goes down. So I think that's a good pick. I like the Cameron Curl pickup. Shoring up that secondary. Can never have too many good DBs. And then in the draft, kind of like you said, trying to fill that void that Aaron Donald left. It'll be fun to see the chemistry of those two Florida State guys, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. See if they can continue that success on the NFL. I'm not sure about the Blake Corum pick, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Might be my own PTSD from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Similar build, real small guys that, Edwards-Helaire didn't really pan out, couldn't really break a whole lot of tackles. Obviously, his first year didn't have a lot of success finding the end zone, especially on the, goal line, getting stuffed a lot. So I could see Blake Corum maybe having similar problems. So I think they might need to maybe address running back here in the future. Aaron Donald, big loss, but they did their best to try and replace him.
I think it's probably higher than most people have, but I had him at an A minus. I really like the additions they made this offseason. Obviously, you lose Aaron Donald, but they did as much as I think they could do, bringing in two Florida State guys that have history playing together in Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. And then I personally love the Blake Corum addition. I think he could be a really good plug-and-play player for them behind Kyron Williams this next year. Love the Jonah Jackson pickup for the offensive line to help shore up and protect an old Matt Stafford. And then I really, really like the defensive back additions, Cameron Curl, Darius Williams, and then obviously Trey White. Assuming he can stay healthy, I think would be a great addition for them as well. So I know most people probably won't have them this high, but I have the Rams at an A-. What do you have?
I like what they did. I do think A-, a little high. I'd probably go like B-. Just again, minor improvements. Secondary was probably their biggest area of improvement from last year. At least they're trying. They're showing that they're trying. So yeah, I'm in that B range.
Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals, pretty quiet offseason, didn't really lose a lot of people, didn't really bring in a whole lot of notable names either. As far as the departures go, the Arizona Cardinals losing really Hollywood Brown was the biggest name that they lost this offseason, going over to the Kansas City Chiefs, signing a one-year deal there. They also released DJ Humphries as well, offensive lineman. So really, those are the only two huge names that they lost this offseason. As far as additions, they did bring in Jonah Williams, offensive tackle from the Bengals, to hopefully help shore up that offensive line around Kyler Murray. Outside of that, mainly defense. Mac Wilson, senior linebacker from New England. Sean Murphy-Bunting, obviously cornerback from Tennessee. And then Zay Jones was a big receiver name that they brought in this offseason as well, pretty recently. So as far as the draft goes, Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously was the big name that they brought in with their fourth overall pick. And then bringing in edge Darius Robinson out of Missouri later on in the first round as well, being the two main names from the draft that the Cardinals acquired. So, Aaron, what are kind of your thoughts on the Cardinals offseason so far?
Yeah, losing Marquise Brown really hurts, but then they replaced him with Zay Jones, looking to get a compliment to Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side of the ball, somebody else for Kyler to throw the ball to. And then I kind of like this DJ Dallas pickup. Didn't really get a whole lot of play time with Seattle, but looking to kind of get his real start here with Arizona. I think that could be a fun matchup. And then in the draft, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., best receiver in the draft, take him. Darius Robinson, that's a solid pickup. High motor guy that should hopefully make an impact right away. Again, kind of seems to be the theme of this NFC West. No real big swings, just lose some key players, pick up some guys who you hope turn into key players. I don't think they really could go any lower than last year's success. So I think they definitely took a step in the right direction this year.
Yeah, I think as far as grades go, they took a step forward for sure, but I don't think they really made a whole lot of substantial progress on their roster. So I think with that being said, I'd probably give them a C+. I think I'd give them a C+. Slightly above average. Really the main impact players they brought in were through the draft, though. Free agency was kind of a dud for them, in my opinion. I don't really think they did a whole lot there. So,
yeah, I'm right there with you. I think C+ is pretty good. You got some hopeful guys that, if they turn out, then that could, bring that grade up in the future. But I think you're gonna have to wait and see kind of what their draft prospects turn into. Not a whole lot in free agency, unfortunately.
Yeah. Moving on to our last team in the NFC West, we got the Seattle Seahawks, who in the last couple seasons have been captained by Geno Smith, made the playoffs a couple years ago, missed it this past year. So hoping to get back into the hunt this next season. Some key departures, really big tight end losses, I guess. Colby Parkinson and Will Dissly, losing both of those guys this offseason. Outside of that, they lost linebackers Devin Bush, Bobby Wagner, Some notable names there for sure on the defensive side of the ball. As far as notable free agents that the Seahawks brought in, really nobody of real note here. However, in the draft, the Seahawks did sign or draft Byron Murphy to hopefully be Leonard Williams' successor in the future whenever he inevitably retires down the line. Later on, drafted cornerback Nehemiah Pritchard out of Auburn, as well as his buddy DJ James out of Auburn as well in the secondary. So, bringing a couple Auburn Tigers to hopefully help out a secondary that they also lost some pieces to this offseason as well. What are kind of your thoughts on the Seahawks offseason? Because the more I look at it, the more I'm disappointed.
I think Byron Murphy was the correct pick for the
I
first
agree.
round pick. Um, Other than that, though, not real impressed with their draft, especially with how deep this draft was with, receivers and linemen. Would have hoped for them to kind of maybe look to move up into that second round and get a receiver, especially with Tyler Lockett not getting any younger. You're going to need to find somebody to go on the other side with DK Metcalf here pretty soon.
They do have Smith and
Yeah,
Jigba.
They do have Jackson Smith and Jigba. But as far as free agency goes, Laken Tomlinson from the Jets, that's really like the biggest name, I guess. But I don't really see how they improved a whole lot.
Yeah, with that being said, this is simply because they drafted Byron Murphy. But if they hadn't done that, I think I would have given them an F. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a D. I'll spare them the D minus because I like Byron Murphy that much. And they did re-sign Leonard Williams, who I think was a good re-signing. They did bring back Noah Fant, who I think showed some promise at the tight end position. So with the Byron Murphy draft pick and then those two re-signings, I'll give them a D over a D minus. Just a D. The big D.
I'll give him a D plus.
Okay.
right there with you. Just not really any moves to make improvement other than the Byron Murphy pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the other guys will pan out and be decent, but
I do like Pritchard.
Yeah, but you need more than decent
right.
to contend with the 49ers at this point.
Yeah, and then
the Rams, we'll throw the Rams in there as well. As long as they got Stafford, they'll be good. So they need to do something.
I agree.
To contend with those teams.
Yeah, definitely did not keep pace with the rest of the division, in my opinion, this offseason. So, well, that was our thoughts on each NFC West team's offseason additions, subtractions, transactions, and how we think they kind of measured up to our expectations. Gave them each letter grades. Let us know down below if you agree or disagree with our different opinions. But other than that, I think that'll do it for this episode of the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Sergerberg, here with the Coast Day, Aaron. Gunze by Aaron.
Bye.
All right. Please make sure to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Other than that, deuces.